If this turns into another summer of unrest, what are you prepared to do, sir?
About what?
If this turns, well, the protests have spread now to 16 cities across the U.S. If this turns in...
That's what you're saying. Do I believe you? I don't think so.
Well, I got that from the Fox News Brain Room.
What we have is a situation in Los Angeles that was caused by gross incompetence. They didn't have the police to handle it. The police were asking us to come in.
Yeah, none of that's true. The police were not asking them to come in. They had the police to handle it. I do agree that it was caused by gross incompetence, and you just saw it right there. Incompetent and also quite gross. I will agree. He seemed to think the question was pretty rude, and I think it was a little bit rude. This is like a cultural event, and you're also interrupting one of Melania's 2 or 3 contractually obligated appearances with Donald Trump on a yearly basis. Like, don't ruin that for the guy. She's holding his hand. That's the closest he's getting to actual affection, and she's wrecking it for him, man. And so you hate to see that. But anyway,
well, he just slipped on the staircase getting on the plane. Maybe she's holding his hand
to steady him. Exactly. I love the idea that somewhere in a different state from Trump, Melania was watching that on repeat and laughing her ass off. But anyway, let's return to the protests, because whether he believes her or not, and she quickly cites, I got that from Fox News, and I love that every time he says, like something like that, like, I don't believe you, it's not true, and then gets the correction, he just presses forward as if he's still right. Like he doesn't, well, regardless of whether you like the idea that it's spread, Donald Trump, it has actually spread. And so his claims were untrue. LAPD chief pushed back on Trump's claim that the National Guard was necessary. And that's, I want to be clear about this. I know that if you're outside of LA or outside of California, you might think, well, they're all just commies over there. This is the head of the LAPD. I don't think he's a natural ideological ally of the damage report. But anyway, they didn't request this, and it has actually spread. So you could see this is a map right here. This is from the BBC, so I'm sure he wouldn't believe this either, but it's pretty national at this point. We predicted it. I think it was pretty predictable. And so over 1,000 demonstrators in Atlanta Tuesday evening, over 1,000 downtown Seattle, thousands in Chicago. We showed some of that yesterday. Spokane had 1,000 protesters on Wednesday. Manhattan has had protests throughout the week. And you can certainly expect a lot of that this weekend. I mean, it perfectly coincides with the No Kings protests that are gonna be happening all over the country. And so he's denying it. And I'm kind of confused about that, Michael, because like on the one hand, he does like showing the American people that there's a lot who don't support him, I think is important for our side. That said, he clearly wants a blue opposition to fight against, to demonize, to crush. So why would he reject that it's happening? I mean, that gives him more places to send the National Guard. I'm a little bit confused about that. What do you think?
Well, because I think he wants to reinforce that this is actually a popular policy, right? Immigration, he does have, that's where his numbers are strongest. And he wants to reinforce that people are happier with this. Why would they protest this? So you deny, and you're denying it to people who live in Biloxi, Mississippi, and name another place, right? I mean, Murfreesboro, Tennessee, people who are not in places where they're having protests, and this isn't happening. He's telling them, oh, this isn't really happening. Don't worry about it. This is popular policy. So he's doing that because that is sort of his core. That's sort of what his dictator-like tendencies are, is to deny that anybody is unhappy with what he's doing. The other side, I mean, he's also motivated, and this is a theme of today's show, about this pettiness. It's not inappropriate that you started with that silly sports story and went to the picnic, because this is all about Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass to him. This isn't about policy so much. It's about sort of talking about how bad they are. One of them is an opponent to his party next time, and to talk about Democratic incompetence and to give reasons for not supporting California, et cetera. And you talk about where these are happening. They're happening in Illinois, another red state with a governor who may run for president. They're happening in Washington. Of course, they're happening in many places, not exclusively Democratic places, but these are the types of things that he likes to get involved in, because it's going after, the politics of personal revenge. It's governing with vengeance.
Yeah, no, it's certainly a good point. I know a lot of people are saying that this is sort of giving him what he wants, and I'm very worried about just Like I want to be hyperbolic. I want to be the radical that like totally got it all wrong. I'm worried about them just like opening fire on protesters in LA or in Seattle or whatever. Like Trump would not care. Fox News would not care. Sean Hannity would do an hour-long monologue about why every one of those kids deserved to be shot. Like, he would not miss a beat on that. So I'm very worried about that.
Yeah.
That said,
John, let me just talk to that, because it's not just that's it. That's a real worry. That's real. However, that's the kind of thing that also changes the way people talk about this. I think it would have a serious, severe backlash. When dogs were released in Birmingham, Alabama in 1963 or 64, those were the types of things that changed the perception around the country of what was going on and around the world. And that's when things started to change. And that's when you had a Civil Rights Bill and a Voting Rights Act. So that's very, very serious when it happens, and they certainly don't want that to happen. Nobody wants it to happen, and the fear is real. But that would be a turning point in this, and we don't want it to happen nonetheless.
You know, one thing I remember is when there were the protesters around the White House, and Donald Trump was being mocked for like cowering in the bunker or whatever, and so he sent out forces to beat down the protesters so that he could march and hold the Bible up upside down or whatever. And so, like, that's who he is. He's the guy who in his first term was saying, why can't we just shoot the protesters? Why can't we just shoot them in the leg or whatever? Like, that's his impulse. And he's being pushed by Stephen Miller, a guy who, like, Trump, I think wants to do some mass deportations. It's a sop to his base or whatever. Stephen Miller does want to get rid of everyone a shade tanner than me from this country. Like, he doesn't care if it's food processing plants. He doesn't care if it's like farms, whatever. He does not care. And that is I think way like, maybe not the majority position in this country on the topic of immigration might not perfectly line up with me. I can admit that, but I don't think it lines up with Stephen Miller. I would bet money it's closer to me than Stephen Miller, but Stephen Miller is the one who's driving the immigration policy. And the protests are going to follow that. And so he is putting Trump in a position that might lead Trump to make some decisions that could be really, really unpopular.
If you enjoyed that, make sure that you never miss another video by subscribing. And if you want a little more, consider hitting the join button and becoming an actual member. But you're probably wondering, why the hell would I do that, John? First off, calm down. The stakes in this are very, very low. But also, when you click the join button and you become a member, you get access to bonus content that I make every week, and it's a ton of fun. You get access to tons of custom emojis and more besides that. By the way, if you join at tier 3, you even get access to a monthly member hangout with myself and other awesome people, and we always have a great time. By the way, you'll get all that going forward, but you also unlock years of the back catalog. That is literally 100 or more bonus clips, top 10 lists, debates, and more. What are you waiting for? Click the join button below. Your support powers our show, and we couldn't do it without you. Or at the very least, I wouldn't really want to try. Viewers like you keep me here. So thank you in advance for joining.